What's up, everybody? This is John Eric Wilkinson. Welcome to Boot Up Sports, where Louisiana high school sports stays lit. Today, I'm in the dog pound with head coach Ryan Serpas of the Springfield Bulldogs, Springfield, Louisiana. Coach Serpas, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming.
All right, Coach. Well, I'm going to turn the show over to you for a second. Tell our fans and viewers a little bit about you, what made you get into coaching, and what your outlook on the season is.
Yeah, life growing up, I always, just enjoyed being active and playing sports. Grew up in this area and just really enjoyed my little league experiences of playing baseball, playing soccer, and obviously football. And then just getting to this point, whenever I started to get into high school, I started to develop more of a passion for football than anything else. And kind of early on, probably around my sophomore year in high school, just kind of saw myself as being a coach one day, and just really enjoyed what I thought sports brought to my life and what I could do to try to give back to the kids to hopefully build a culture, and knowing what I could possibly do for our area. And so here we are. I've been here for since 2006, so
Wow.
going on 19 years,
Okay.
and 17 of them. This I think is going to be my 17th year as head coach. It's been my first couple years here as an assistant.
Okay.
Just trying to get these boys ready for the mental, physical grind that it's going to take to be successful this year. That's one of the great things about this sport is it teaches life lessons, and
Exactly.
there is no calling in sick when you're at home and you got bills to pay, you got mouths to feed. You got to step up and take those ownerships, and I think that's where football is a great tool for us to do that, to grow these young boys into fine young men.
Yeah, Coach, exactly. And coaching and teaching is not an easy profession. You're trying to make your living based on the performance of 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, And any man who has been in the profession this long and has done it for 19 years, like you said, Coach, you could have never won a game, and I still respect you because you've dedicated a big part of your life to helping young men on and off the field.
Mm-hmm.
Wins and losses have come. Not everyone's going to the NFL, but how can you help young men be a good father, a good husband, good member of society, Coach?
Yep,
All right,
definitely.
well, I appreciate you, giving us a little bit about you, Coach. Coach, if you would, let's recap the 2024 season and let's close the book on it officially and start looking to 2025.
Yeah, we went 2-6 last year. Only had 9 games scheduled, and then the first week of the year had to cancel the game because of a hurricane that came through, and
Yeah.
we had some flooding in our area. We are kind of prone to flooding around here.
Of course.
And so, we kind of struggled a little early on. We were able to get some wins. And then, as it has in years past, when you coach a small school, the injury bug kind of starts to set in as well. And, we didn't have a whole lot of seniors coming into last year. We only had 4 seniors coming into last year. And we lost a few of them to some injuries. And so we had a young core of kids get a lot of experience. Finished the year off 2-6. Plus, we took the leap into 3A football.
Yeah.
And
gauntlet.
so
A gauntlet.
and so it was a little daunting for us, and mentally and physically. And so with all of that change, we struggled to end the year. But I think with all the experience we're able to gain from those young guys, it should pay huge dividends for us this year. Moving forward, and I'm excited for those kids who got all that experience to be able to show how hard they've worked this off season, to be able to perform and put a better product on the field this year.
Yeah, well, Coach, I don't care if you're 5A, I don't care if you're 1A, 3A. If you only have 4 seniors it's going to kind of be a down season, because you have to think a freshman or sophomore, maybe 14 years old, and you're going against a 5-star recruit at a meet. That's tough. It's just the body of a 14 or 15-year-old young man going against a 17, 18, 19-year-old young man. It's just a big physical difference. You can lift all the weights in the world, but at the end of the day, young men who are 14 years old going against a young man who's 18 years old is a difference. It is.
And I've told several people, that same thing, that same sentiment throughout the last few years that we've had. Whenever we can get to a point to where I have mostly juniors and seniors on my football field at one time, we will then be more competitive and be able to hopefully win more ball games. The way that we've been the last few years is we've had to rely on incoming freshmen to come in and play immediately.
Sure.
And, that is a struggle. A 14-year-old body versus a 18, 19-year-old body is a huge difference. And those kids we're getting to the point to where, those couple classes that have kind of had to go through that struggle are at a point to be able to come in, and now they're physically more mature, ready to go and help us be more successful.
Awesome, Coach. I'm looking forward to the season. Coach, you talked about your 4 seniors graduating. I know you'll miss them. Talk about, some offensive and defensive players you have coming back, maybe their position, height, weight. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've got a really good senior class this year as far as character, work ethic, and the ability for us to be successful, leadership as well. With that said, there's going to be a few guys who stand out a little bit more than the others,
of course.
Such as an Ethan Lipscomb, Anthony Williams, and then a couple of guys that you're going to talk to here in a little while. Braylon Jones and Layden May, huge assets to what we're doing for this year. We have a lot of experience. Several of those guys have been starters, for 4 years.
Yeah.
And now, we're expecting them to kind of put it together and be the leaders of this team and hopefully carry us to a place that we haven't been in the last couple of years. Have a winning season and maybe win a few games in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, Coach, and I don't know if a lot of people outside the Springfield community know this, but Coach Serpas, the year before the public school private school split, was 1 game away from the Dome, but just ran into the juggernaut of John Curtis. So that wasn't very long ago, Coach. So it definitely would take some work to get back to there, especially going to the 3A level. But, with the hard work and determination that you and your guys that I just witnessed practice show, I think the sky's the limit. The kids look real bought in, and everybody was hustling at practice. The guys I'm about to interview are a little sweaty because, they just got done with practice. And there's one thing about Coach Serpas' practice, they're not easy. They're not a walk in the park. He's got a lot of guys that have to play both ways, really 3 ways. So, you're going to play how you practice, and they always practice really hard. And I've talked to several alumni who have said the same thing. So, Coach, if you want to talk a little bit about the non-district schedule first, and then we'll dive into the district schedule, which, like I said earlier, is a gauntlet. It's one of the toughest districts around here, but you're not running from it. You're not making excuses about it. You're strapping up the helmets every Friday night, and you're going out, and it don't matter if you're playing A-Mead or Albany or Sumner or Pine. Your guys are playing hard. So if you would just speak a little bit about the non-district schedule first.
Yeah, like I said, we only had 9 games scheduled last year. I was able to get a 10th game scheduled this year. We're going to open up the season going to 5A Broadmoor.
The Buccaneers.
Yeah, playing the Buccaneers week 1 at their place. And, they're a 5A opponent. We played them probably about 4 years ago. They've been a competitive game for us, doing 7-on-7 against them last few years. So it's going to be, somewhat familiar, but, just kind of getting getting everything started with I know it's going to be an athletic team.
Oh yeah, of course.
And we're going to be tested right off the bat with some 5A talent.
Yeah.
After that, we'll kind of come back down a little bit. We'll go be hosting St. John of Plaquemine.
Okay, the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles, which we had to cancel last year due to the hurricane, like I mentioned. So, I've seen them on film. I know they have a history of being a pretty aggressive and pretty good 1A school. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for us with that one as well. Then we'll have Crescent City coming in.
Okay.
Crescent City, is a 1A school out of New Orleans.
Yeah. Coach, I'm going to pause you. Crescent City is a 1A school, kind of a new program, but they got their first win last season in a few years. So that's a big win for that program, and I think those guys are going to build off that, and they're going to come in hungry, Coach.
Well, they have athletes.
Yes.
That's the thing about them is, they haven't been, because they're relatively new, they haven't been a football, school. They've been a basketball school. They've played for, and I think they've even won a couple of basketball championships here recently.
Division IV Select. They are a power in Division IV Select.
They have athletes there. So, and that was, we saw that whenever they came to us last year. So if you give them some space, they can make some plays. So it's definitely going to be not a walk in the park for us. So I've talked to Coach Cox this all season over there, and his guys are excited for the season. Like you said, coming off, they got a victory last year, and they're hoping to build upon that. And they played us tough for a half last year. Yeah. So I think it was only like a one-score game at halftime. Yeah. Then, we'll get into, that'll be week 3 of the season. Week 4, Haynes Academy comes back.
Okay, new coach.
Us. Yes, they have a new coach, and so they're going to have a new system. They went undefeated last year. And, made a run. We expect their numbers to probably be even bigger than what they were last year. They are a very intelligent school, and what they do scheme-wise is kind of play off of that. And they have a couple athletes, and they utilize them well. And so I expect that to be another challenge for us too.
And if I, Coach, not to cut you off again, but if I remember correctly, like you said, they are one of the most prestigious schools in Louisiana.
Yeah. It's called Haynes Academy of Science and Technology.
Yeah. Those guys are a lot smarter than me.
That's right. Yeah. So they're like the best of the best in all of Jefferson Parish. Where those guys get to choose to go there.
Yeah. So they're not going to make any type of mental mistakes.
That's right.
Yep. Everything's going to be clean. They may not out-athlete you with a bunch of 4-4, 4-5 guys, but they're probably methodical, and they're going to do exactly what their coach asked them to do.
Yes. And which is why they were able to be so successful last year. They had a couple of good athletes, and they spread the ball around, and they just wear you down, just coming right at you every single play. So we'll see how that goes with the new coach and the philosophy that he instills. But I would imagine, being what they are, it's going to be something very similar where they rely on other teams to create and make mistakes, and then be able to capitalize on them.
Yes.
Then we'll get into Central Private, which will also be our homecoming game here. They've given us a tough run. We've played them. This is going to be the 4th year now. And we've been fortunate enough to beat them twice. They beat us once.
Okay.
It's we're expecting another tough battle out of them. I know they got a good senior group this year, and they're expecting to have a great season. And that's where we'll be at before we run into our district. Yeah,
Coach, and like we spoke of, the district is a gauntlet. You're new to it. You used to play Independence, St. Thomas Aquinas, Northlake Christian, Pope John Paul, and when the LHSAA did the reclassification, you got bumped up into Amite, Sumner, Bogalusa, Pine. The Battle of I-12 is now a district game. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Coach, when I look at the district schedule, the first thing that stands out to me, and everybody in the state, is the Amite Warriors. Coach Powell, he's just always has a powerhouse program. I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner a couple years ago was from a meet. He has another lineman, 6'7", 370, getting recruited by everybody in the country. He's got athletes for days, you know. Pine, Coach Bradley Seal has really done a good job this last decade of really having them in the playoffs every year. And now they're not just one-round playoff team. They're not just first round. They're playing on Thanksgiving, you know. They're close to getting that semifinal game, you know.
Yeah.
They haven't been to the semis yet, but he returns a lot. He's going to run the ball right at you, but he'll throw it out to one of those 6'2" athletes, and they'll go up and get it.
That's right.
Jules Sumner, you know, Coach Ross' career, he's been there for a while now. He's I don't know what they feed them boys in Sumner, but his offensive line is massive every year. He's going to run it right behind them. He's going to run it right behind them. He's going to run it right behind them. And when you stop him, he's going to run it right behind them again. But don't think he won't flip it out to an athlete too. You know, he's done a good job with Jules Sumner, Bogalusa. You know, they were a little down last year, but you know the few years before that, they were making deep runs. Coach Crutchfield, one of the best coaches in the state, has 3 state championships. And Bogalusa's got as many athletes as anybody in the state.
Anybody, yep.
And then the Battle of I-12, which we're going to speak about a little more later in the show. The Battle of I-12, you can throw your record out, you can throw their record out. Let's ball them up and let's throw a few punches, and whoever lands one is probably going to win that. You know. So, Coach, if you want to talk a little bit about the district a little more in depth, then we'll move on to a little bit more about the Battle of I-12.
Yeah, it's definitely you know, with us stepping into 3A, we missed the 3A, 2A cut by six students.
6 students.
So
I got to get on Brett Van Pran about that.
Well, we're definitely at a point now where we return back to 2A this upcoming season if the numbers stay about the same.
Okay, yeah, and that, rightfully so. And that's not to say you can't compete in 3A.
Yeah.
But when you got 7 or 8 guys going 3 ways, and they got no guys going both ways, it's tough. I mean, it's really tough on you and on the young men.
Yeah. You know, getting into this 3A district, we kind of knew some of these teams. I mean, them being area teams mostly. We played since I've been here. You know, when I first got here, Sumner was in our district. You know, Pine was in our district. You know, those schools have grown. And then A-Meet at one point was a 2A school.
Yeah, won the state championship that year.
And they were in our district at that point with Devontae Smith and Devontae Lee.
Coach, I gotta. So how do you game plan for 2 guys, and one of them 6'3", the other one's 6'4"? One of them's a Heisman Trophy winner. The other one goes to LSU, and they're out wide. How do you game plan for that?
Well, you're not also taking into account the quarterback. I think went to Kentucky.
Amani Gilmore, the lefty.
Yeah,
yes.
and then they had a running back who was pretty highly recruited as well. I think he might have went to like UL Lafayette or something like that. So, you know, it's kind of a pick your poison kind of deal. Whenever you play teams like that, you can't stop them all. You just try to limit what they can do, hopefully. Yeah. You know, try to. It's a numbers game where you're looking at statistics and saying, okay, whenever they get in this situation, they're trying to go to him. Whenever they doing that, they're trying to go here. So you try to scheme things around stopping individuals whenever their number gets called. But at that point, you know, you're just playing with fire. It's just a matter of time before an athlete gets in space, and you're just watching them do their thing. Yeah.
And Coach, you know, now that you put it in the back of my mind, we didn't even mention the 5-star defensive lineman they had, Ishmael Sofser, who went to Alabama. I'm not quite sure what happened to his career, but A-Meet, tough opponent, Coach. You know, moving on, talk a little bit about Pine.
Pine, you know, Coach Seal has done a wonderful job of bringing, you know, their program to, you know, being relevant every single year. Yeah. He's, you know, made some runs, and it kind of all goes back to Derek Dillon, who was kind of put them on the map athletically. Yeah,
Florida commit.
He ended up going to LSU.
You're right.
And finished out at LSU and was a super kid as well. Yeah. So, you know, he is, you know, Coach Seal's done a great job, and he just continues to stay on top of those guys, and they continue to buy into what he's preaching, and they remain competitive. I think it was 2 years ago they won a district.
Yeah.
They've made it. Deep playoff runs, and last year they had a 6'7" D lineman who was committed, I think, to TCU. TCU?
Yeah, he's at
and then
TCU
they had like
now.
another 6'6" kid on the other side. So they're also huge up front, and then they have a couple of athletes that they sprinkle out there too. So it's like a good mix of what they have up there, and they've definitely been a very competitive, hard team to play against.
Yeah. Well, Coach, moving on to Bogalusa. Bogalusa is the only team in your district I didn't get a chance to watch in person last season. But I spent about an hour talking to Coach Crutchfield at the Superdome at the high school state championships, and he kind of filled me in. Me and him kind of built a little relationship. Good guy, great coach, But once again, like we said earlier, Bogalusa, they're going to come out there. They'll roll around, they'll throw it up, and they'll go get it. And, he'll send the house every play on defense, and they're kind of just a hard team to prepare for because they have so many athletes at every position. They may not have a 6'2", 300-pound lineman, but that lineman might come out, that defensive lineman might come off the ball at a 4'6". You just never know.
Yeah, they definitely athletes all over the place. And it's hard to match that type of speed. You can't. If you don't see it every day, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to actually see it in action. And, with Coach Crutchfield's experience, he's definitely a well-respected and successful, high school coach.
Yeah.
And, he's always going to be somebody who's very difficult to prepare for because of the way that he does play.
Yeah, of course.
So last year we really struggled with the speed of the game with them, and this year they come to us, but we hope to be a little bit more competitive and be able to not necessarily, you can't really control it at all times, but to at least slow them down a little bit.
Yeah, slow them down, maybe a little ball control or grind out a drive.
Yeah, make them have to go the length of the field in 12 plays as opposed to, one big play.
Yeah. Well, Coach, moving on to Jules Sumner, Coach Ross Career, he's done a heck of a job at that program. And, last couple seasons, he's, has kind of been with some of his better teams. And I don't think there's really much of a fall off this season. I think he graduated a couple guys, but he's got a real good core group back. If you want to talk a little bit about Sumner, Coach.
Well, Sumner won the district last year.
Yeah.
So when I talked to Coach Career and before our game last year, he kind of told me, well, I'm sophomore loaded. So if that tells you anything, he won the district with a bunch of sophomore athletes and sophomores all over his field.
Yeah.
And so those guys are coming back not only for one more year, but for 2 years.
2 years.
So I expect them to probably be picked to, be between them and Amy again this year, just like it was last year.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a gauntlet, going through them, and that's actually who we open up district against is Sumner. So they are, Coach Career's done a good job of getting those guys to buy into his philosophy. And whenever I came here in 2006, that was right towards the end of Sumner's 10-year reign of winning all the 2A district championships year after year after year.
Yeah, of course.
I think they had a few undefeated seasons mixed in there. So we definitely know, about Sumner and what they're capable of and the type of kids they have. It's just it's going to be a tough challenge for us to be able to get out there and be competitive and show our kids that, hey, small, win the battle, and hopefully we're there to have an opportunity to win the war at the end.
Yeah, that's all you want, Coach. And, piggybacking off that, the war at the end, the Battle of I-12, Coach, one of the oldest rivalries in the state. Everybody in Albany and Springfield is going to be there. And I'm just going to take a little second to talk to our viewers and our fans. If you don't like sports, if you don't like football, come to the Battle of I-12 because it will really change your feelings towards sports, towards football. It's loud. The student sections are crazy. They're painted up. You can tell both communities are as locked in to that game as any game. It doesn't matter if you're 9-0, 0-9, Albany's 9-0, 0-9. But Coach, the thing that really gets me, and I've been to the Battle of I-12 the last 4 or 5 years, when you walk into the stadium, it just feels different.
Yeah.
It's just a different feeling knowing that these kids from Springfield and from Albany are about to play probably harder than they've ever played in their entire life, because this is something 25 years from now, when they walk into the Piggly Wiggly in Springfield, hey, we beat y'all, remember that? We won the Battle of I-12. This is something these kids talk about for the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's definitely a big game for our community, for their community. It's one of those games that you don't have to tell anybody about. They're going to show up for it. Like you said, both communities kind of shut down to go to this game.
Oh, of course. If you want to rob Springfield, if y'all are playing the Battle of I-12 at Albany, it's time to come take everything to Springfield, because there's not going to be anybody left.
Nobody's going to be around here. That's definitely right. And it's highly competitive. We've been the smaller school, and we've had to step up to those challenges. Whenever I first got here, we had some pretty good athletes at that time, and we went on like a little run. And have won it several years in a row. And then here lately, Albany has kind of had some of those kids and have been able to kind of establish their own little thing. But I think it's very highly competitive because the kids know each other. They grow up together. They're uncles and cousins are playing against each other. And, and so it's just a community type game. That's what makes it fun. And the kids definitely are willing to buy in and do more for that week more than any other. Because they want those bragging rights.
Yes.
So it's a fun game to coach in. The atmosphere and some of the the goosebumps. It's compared to you're going to have bigger crowds at that game than you will at playoffs.
Oh, of course. And it feels like a playoff game.
It does feel like
it's
that type of atmosphere.
It's like going to the Livingston Parish basketball championship on championship Saturday. When you step in the gym, it just feels different. Coach Travis McKell, he's the new head coach at Albany. He's got those guys buying into his program. He's got them fired up. I saw him not long ago at a restaurant. He told me he's got 52 guys out. And was hoping to get more, so they're buying in. And Coach, I'm excited. I will definitely be at the Battle of I-12. I can't guarantee a lot of things in life, but I'm gonna be at the Battle of I-12. If you got to roll me in on a wheelchair, I'm gonna be here. Well, Coach, we come to the point in the show where I got to give a shout out to Austin Thomas, who I think used to coach with you.
He coached with me last year.
Okay, and Ricky Haino. And I said I'm gonna give the first comment on my Facebook question a shout out, but those were so simultaneously, I have to give both of them a shout out. And my question was, the school I'm featuring tomorrow, which is today, Springfield, their men's basketball team won a state championship in 1982, and they both commented Springfield. Coach, that's a team that in this community will never be forgotten about. You talk about Ronald Cox, Happy. There was a Dantzler. Like I said, that was before my time, but some of the old heads in Springfield, they still talk about those guys, and those guys really are legends in this community.
Well, they also won the state championship in 97.
97,
97.
wow.
So 82 was the first championship.
Yeah.
And then in 97, Mark Erdy won a state championship.
Yeah.
We've had a tradition of having some really good boys basketball teams here. And Coach Dreher is doing a great job of getting that back to what it once was.
Yeah.
So the basketball program. Now you want to talk about probably the best overall program on our campus. the last 5-6 years, our girls basketball team.
Yes.
3 out of the last 4 years, they made it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
You know, and they've been just like a few points away from making it into the Sweet 16. So, you know, our girls program has definitely done a 180 from the time when I first got here.
Yeah,
and
sure.
you know, I really, we talk about basketball. Those kids do a great job of buying in and being a part of winning culture.
Yeah, well, Coach, I am familiar with it because my sister is actually the head girls basketball coach at Doyle. So same district, you know, Doyle's non-football, but they're getting it. And my wife's little cousin is actually the point guard for Springfield, Cameron Culberson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I coached her in Little League. Great kid, great family, you know. I love the Culberson. Shout out to Cameron.
Yep.
All right, Coach, you know, we've kind of discussed everything that I think the fans need to see for the upcoming season. Our last thing I want to talk about, you know, and we just talked about a team from the past, you know, we always got to show love to the people who walk the halls in Springfield, who put the Bulldog helmet on. So a notable alumni I'm going to give a shout out to is Zeke Jones. I think everybody in the Springfield community knows him. And Zeke, if you're watching, just know right here, every morning I have pain because of you. When we were an 11 and 12-year-old football coach, he hit me so hard that I still have pain right. I call it the Zeke Jones ache. I still have pain right here. But, you know, I just, you know, going off that, Zeke's a great guy. You know, me and him, we played, you know, football, basketball, baseball growing up. His little brother was a good player here. Any other notable alumni you'd like to give a shout out to, Coach?
Man, there's so many. I've been fortunate to coach, you know, the Josh Bridges who played with Zeke Jones. You know, that whole 2006 group, whenever I first got here, we went undefeated that year, and I was spoiled to have kids like Zeke Jones and Josh Bridges and Jermaine Smiths, Dustin Freeman's.
All those were really good basketball players as well for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they also played back, and that's whenever we were really successful as a school. Whenever our basketball players also played football, and you know every sport kind of helped each other out back then. Darren McKigney is a kid who's probably
is that Slim?
Slim McKigney.
Yeah, I know Slim. Really good baseball player too.
Really, he got recruited, went and played baseball at UNO.
Okay,
where he graduated from. So, you know, we've been fortunate to have some kids play multiple sports and be able to do great things. And, you know, a kid like a Slim who baseball he was really good at. But in my opinion, I think he could have been, you know, a football player at the next level. He could have probably been a basketball player at the next level as well. You know, so we've got a lot of kids that I've been fortunate to be able to coach, and it's good to see them every now and then. We started a athletic hall of fame a few years back.
Okay, cool.
Zeke Jones and made it last year into our class, and Josh Bridges is in there, and I'm sure we'll start to have a few more kids start to add into that I've been fortunate enough to coach these next few years.
Sure. Well, Coach, you know, that's going to come to the end of our show. I want to remind our fans and followers, follow me on TikTok, Boot Up Sports. Also my Instagram, boot_up_sports. Same thing with my Facebook page, boot_up_sports. And, you know, I just want to remind the fans, this isn't about me. You know, I'm just a guy who loves high school sports, and my goal was to get more recognition to coaches, to programs, to players. So in a little while, I'm going to have the privilege of interviewing Coach Serpas, 3 football players. So make sure you stick around. And Coach, good luck on the season. I look forward to watching the Bulldogs.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.